Ancient scrolls tell of powerful kingdoms, rich cultures, and noble lineages that shaped human civilization. But among these stories lies a controversial question that has echoed through centuries. What does the Bible really say about the origins of black people? Some have twisted ancient texts to spread harmful myths. Others have buried the truth beneath layers of misinterpretation. But hidden within the pages of the Bible lies an extraordinary story of heritage and legacy that few have truly understood. From the mighty kingdoms of Kush and Egypt to the prosperous lands of ancient Ethiopia, we'll uncover how these biblical narratives reveal not a curse, but a testament to the profound impact of African civilizations on human history. Join us as we separate fact from fiction and explore one of the most misunderstood chapters of biblical history. A story that changes everything we thought we knew about the origins of humanity. The journey begins with a man named Ham, whose descendants would build some of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. Long before the rise of modern civilizations, three brothers stood at the crossroads of human history: Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah. Through their bloodlines, the ancient world would take shape, giving birth to nations that would leave an indelible mark on human history. Among these brothers, Ham's lineage would prove particularly remarkable. As the father of four sons, Kush, Misraim, Put, and Canaan, Ham would become the progenitor of some of humanity's most magnificent civilizations. Through Kush, the powerful kingdoms of Ethiopia and Nubia would rise, establishing themselves as beacons of culture and innovation in the ancient world. Their legacy lives on in the rich traditions and archaeological wonders that still dot the Horn of Africa today. Misraim's descendants would forge perhaps the most recognized civilization in human history: ancient Egypt. From the banks of the Nile rose a kingdom whose pyramids, hieroglyphs, and cultural achievements continue to captivate our imagination millennia later. The biblical record describes Egypt not as a cursed nation, but as a land of wisdom, power, and divine significance. To the west, Put's children would establish themselves in Libya and surrounding regions, creating vital trade routes that connected the ancient world. These networks would facilitate not just the exchange of goods, but also of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices that enriched all who participated. While Canaan's story would take a different turn, his brothers' descendants would go on to build empires that stood as testament to human ingenuity and divine purpose. From Ethiopia to Egypt, from Nubia to Libya, these nations would become cradles of human civilization, preserving knowledge and advancing human understanding in ways that still influence our world today. The biblical account of Ham's lineage reveals not just a family tree, but a rich tapestry of human achievement and divine providence. His descendants would become master architects, skilled astronomers, brilliant mathematicians, and wise rulers, their achievements standing as testament to their profound impact on human history. As we trace these ancient bloodlines, we discover a heritage far richer and more significant than many have been led to believe. But to truly understand this legacy, we must first confront a centuries-old misunderstanding that has obscured the truth about Ham's descendants. For centuries, one of the most damaging and persistent myths about biblical history has been the so-called Curse of Ham. This misinterpretation has been used to justify terrible injustices, but the actual biblical text tells a very different story. The account begins with Noah, in a moment of vulnerability, having consumed wine from his newly planted vineyard. While Noah lay uncovered in his tent, his son Ham came upon him. Instead of quietly covering his father's dignity, Ham went to his brothers and spoke of what he had seen. His brothers Shem and Japheth responded with respect, walking backward into the tent with a garment to cover their father, refusing to look upon his nakedness. When Noah awoke and learned what had transpired, his response was specific and targeted. Contrary to popular misconception, Noah did not curse Ham at all. Instead, he pronounced a curse on Canaan, Ham's youngest son. This crucial detail has been overlooked or deliberately distorted throughout history. The biblical text is crystal clear. There was never a curse on Ham himself, nor on his other sons, Kush, Misraim, and Put. The curse was specifically directed at Canaan, whose descendants would later inhabit the land that would become ancient Canaan. This had nothing to do with race or skin color. It was about specific actions and their consequences for a specific lineage. This distinction is vital because it completely undermines any attempt to use this story to justify racial prejudice. The other sons of Ham, Kush, Misraim, and Put went on to establish mighty civilizations that the Bible frequently describes in terms of power, wisdom, and achievement. Ethiopia is mentioned as a land of dignity and strength. Egypt, despite periods of conflict with Israel, is recognized as a center of learning and civilization. The biblical narrative shows these nations playing crucial roles in God's plan, serving as places of refuge, centers of learning, and key players in the unfolding of divine purpose. Far from being cursed, these descendants of Ham were integral to the development of human civilization and the preservation of knowledge and culture. Understanding this truth doesn't just correct a historical error, it reveals the profound impact Ham's descendants had on shaping the ancient world. But to fully appreciate this legacy, we must look deeper into the remarkable civilizations they built. The biblical narrative paints a vivid picture of African civilizations that far transcends common understanding. These weren't peripheral kingdoms existing on the edges of history. They were central players in the drama of human civilization. The kingdom of Kush, descended from Ham's firstborn son, established itself as a powerhouse of culture and innovation. The Kushites were renowned for their masterful archery skills, earning them the biblical description of handlers of the bow. Their capital, Meroe, became famous for its advanced iron smelting, leading some scholars to call it the Birmingham of ancient Africa. Scripture mentions the Kushites' impressive stature and smooth skin, marking them as a distinctive and admired people. Ethiopia emerges in biblical texts as a land of remarkable influence. The account of the Ethiopian eunuch serving Queen Candace reveals not just political power, but spiritual significance. This high official, returning from Jerusalem with sacred scriptures, represents the sophisticated diplomatic and religious connections between Africa and the ancient Near East. The fact that Ethiopia accepted biblical faith early in its history and maintained it through the centuries speaks to the kingdom's spiritual depth. Egypt, born from Misraim's line, stands as perhaps the most frequently mentioned African civilization in Scripture. The Bible portrays Egypt as a land of both refuge and learning. It was here that Abraham found sustenance during famine, where Joseph rose to become second in command, and where the young Jesus found safety from Herod's persecution. Egyptian wisdom was so renowned that Scripture notes Solomon's wisdom surpassed it. A comparison that only makes sense if Egyptian knowledge was considered the gold standard of the ancient world. The Putites, settling in Libya and beyond, established crucial trade networks that connected Africa with the Mediterranean world. Biblical references to Put often appear in contexts of military might and commercial power, indicating their significant role in ancient geopolitics. Archaeological evidence continues to validate these biblical accounts. The discovery of ancient Ethiopian texts, Egyptian hieroglyphs, and Kushite artifacts reveals societies of remarkable sophistication. Their architectural achievements, from the pyramids of Egypt to the stone churches of Ethiopia, still stand as testimony to their technical brilliance. Perhaps most intriguingly, some scholars have traced connections between these African civilizations and distant lands, including parts of ancient India. Trade routes and cultural exchanges suggest these kingdoms' influence extended far beyond their immediate borders, shaping civilizations across multiple continents. But beyond these material achievements lies an even more fascinating mystery: the story of Ham himself, whose life spanned an era of unprecedented change in human history. The biblical figure of Ham stands as one of history's most intriguing patriarchs, his life bridging the world before and after the Great Flood. According to ancient texts, Ham's lifespan mirrored that of his brother Shem, stretching across an remarkable 600 years, a period that saw the rebirth and restructuring of human civilization. During this extraordinary lifespan, Ham witnessed the world's transformation. As one of only 8 people to survive the flood, he carried with him the knowledge of the antediluvian world, technologies, customs, and wisdom that would otherwise have been lost to time. The Book of Jubilees records that Ham was the first to establish a city after the flood, suggesting he possessed crucial architectural and organizational knowledge. But perhaps the greatest mystery surrounding Ham is the location of his final resting place. Ancient traditions point to several possible locations, each with compelling evidence. Ethiopian chronicles speak of Ham's presence in their highlands, where ancient stone markers allegedly point to his tomb. Nubian texts suggest he settled in their realm, sharing his knowledge with the civilization that would later build remarkable pyramids rivaling those of Egypt. Archaeological discoveries in Sudan have unearthed intriguing possibilities. Ancient burial sites, bearing distinctions from typical Egyptian tombs, hint at the resting place of a significant patriarch. Meanwhile, Egyptian records speak of a great ancestor whose description bears striking similarities to biblical accounts of Ham. What makes these possibilities particularly fascinating is their alignment with the territories settled by Ham's descendants. Each location falls within the regions where his children established their kingdoms, suggesting Ham may have played a direct role in laying the foundations for these civilizations. The discovery of ancient flood accounts in each of these regions adds another layer to the mystery. These stories, while varying in detail, share remarkable similarities with the biblical narrative, suggesting a common source, perhaps passed down through Ham himself. Some of the most compelling evidence comes from ancient architectural similarities found across these regions. Common building techniques and astronomical alignments suggest a shared knowledge source, potentially tracing back to Ham's direct influence. The quest for Ham's resting place continues to intrigue archaeologists and historians, but perhaps more significant than the location of his tomb is the legacy he left behind. A legacy that challenges many modern misconceptions about the true meaning of his story. The story of Ham transcends the simplistic interpretations that have too often defined it. At its heart, this isn't a tale of curse and condemnation, but rather an epic narrative of humanity's resilience, diversity, and shared destiny. When we look beyond centuries of misinterpretation, we discover that Ham's story is fundamentally about the spread and development of human civilization. Through his 4 sons, we witness the emergence of societies that would shape the course of human history. These weren't marginalized communities existing on the fringes of the biblical narrative. They were central players in the divine story. The biblical record consistently portrays these African civilizations as places of refuge, wisdom, and power. Egypt served as a sanctuary for Abraham during famine, a land of promotion for Joseph, and a haven for the infant Jesus. Ethiopia appears as a nation of dignity and influence, its people described with respect and admiration. The Kushites are portrayed as skilled warriors and craftsmen, while the descendants of Put established crucial trade networks that connected continents. This portrayal stands in stark contrast to the harmful misinterpretations that have been used to justify historical injustices. The Bible doesn't present Ham's lineage as cursed or inferior, quite the opposite. It shows them as builders of great civilizations, preservers of knowledge, and participants in God's unfolding plan for humanity. More than just a historical account, Ham's story carries profound implications for our understanding of human unity and diversity. It reminds us that all peoples trace their origins to a common source, that diversity was part of the divine plan from the beginning, and that every nation has a role to play in the human story. The true meaning of Ham's narrative isn't found in the misappropriated curse that was never actually placed on him, but in the legacy of achievement, resilience, and dignity demonstrated by his descendants throughout history. This understanding doesn't just correct a historical error. It restores a crucial piece of our shared human heritage. As we've journeyed through this remarkable biblical narrative, we've uncovered a truth far more profound than the distorted versions that have circulated through history. The story of Ham and his descendants isn't a tale of curse and shame, but one of legacy, achievement, and divine purpose. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the ancient kingdoms of Ethiopia, from the skilled archers of Kush to the prosperous traders of Put, Ham's descendants left an indelible mark on human civilization. Their contributions weren't peripheral to biblical history. They were central to it, woven into the very fabric of God's plan for humanity. The archaeological evidence continues to validate these biblical accounts, revealing societies of remarkable sophistication and achievement. But perhaps more importantly, this story challenges us to examine how we interpret and share historical narratives. It reminds us that the truth is often more remarkable than the misconceptions that have obscured it. This journey of discovery doesn't end here. For every question we've answered, new ones emerge, inviting further exploration and understanding. What other historical truths lie waiting to be uncovered? What other stories need to be re-examined and properly understood? The challenge now falls to each of us, to be seekers of truth, to question long-held assumptions, and to share these discoveries with others. Whether you're a student of history, a lover of biblical narratives, or simply someone seeking to understand our shared human story, there's more to uncover. As we close this exploration, remember, the origin of Black people isn't a story of curse, but a testament to the rich diversity and shared destiny of human civilization. Your journey of discovery is just beginning. Join us in uncovering more hidden truths as we continue to explore the fascinating stories that shape our understanding of history and faith. The question isn't whether we'll find more amazing discoveries in these ancient texts. It's who will be part of revealing them to the world. Will you?